Hi, everyone. Good afternoon to those of you tuning in from Europe. Good evening to those of you in Asia. And wherever in the world you're tuning in from, a very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us for our Careers Insider webinar today. My name is Camille, and it's a pleasure to be hosting. I'm a graduate from the IESE MBA class of 2016, and I'm based in the IESE office in Singapore, where I take care of all our MBA admissions and career services activities for Southeast Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. I'm very pleased to have with us today Marcela Girón from our Career Development Center. Since we have many applicants like yourself who are keen to explore careers in finance after your MBA, Marcela will be sharing some insights about finance recruitment and how IESE MBAs are able to make this career switch. Before we begin, some quick rules to make sure our webinar runs smoothly today. Please mute your microphone and disable your camera so there's no background noise or distractions during the presentation. We will be recording this session for those who are not able to join us live today. Please add your home country after your last name. You can do that by clicking on participants and then finding your own name. This will really help us in terms of attendance, so really appreciate your help with this. And of course, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat function. We will try to answer some of them at the Q&A at the end of the session. I know some of you have also emailed us some questions, so thanks a lot for that. If you have any issues on the technical side, you can send a message directly to my colleague Eve Ho. She has the words IT support next to her name as well. She will also be monitoring the chat in case there are any questions that I've missed. So this is the second in a series of Career Insider webinars that we'll be hosting over the next few weeks, covering the most popular industry sectors for our MBA students. So in the previous session, we talked about consulting with Noel from our CDC, where he explained what consulting companies look for and how IESE helps you to make this transition. Today's session will be focused on finance, and in the coming weeks, we'll be covering tech and entrepreneurship. Some of you may have already downloaded our employment report, which is a very good start, and we'll provide you with some statistics and a list of recruiting companies. So the purpose of these webinars is to shed some light on what's behind these numbers, what types of opportunities there are for you, and what activities that we have to support you in your post-MBA career move. If you want more information about other sectors, you can find videos of past webinars on our media page, or if you reach out to the MBA admissions team, we will be happy to connect you with students and alumni as well. So today's webinar will run for about 40 to 45 minutes. Thank you to Marcela for taking time out to speak to all of us. Now let's get started, and I'll pass the mic to Marcela.
Perfect, thank you, Camille. Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar. As Camille already said, I will be talking about why choosing a career in finance and what specifics, specifically we do here at IESE in terms of recruiting for a career in finance. I mean, as you may know, finance is a very broad sector, so we will talk a bit in general about the different opportunities that you can find. And we will also talk specifically on the main or the most popular sectors after the MBA. So I will introduce myself very briefly, then we will discuss about the finance world and these type of opportunities. We will talk about specifics on finance at IESE and also how to prepare for recruiting, as I think this is very important for all of you that are starting to consider a career in this sector. Well, first, as Camille said, I'm Marcela. I'm from the Career Development Center. I'm from Mexico City. I studied economics and then joined the MBA here at IESE as well. I'm class of 2017. I have lived in Mexico, Brazil, UK, and Spain. Before the MBA, I worked in corporate finance in a pharmaceutical company at Pfizer. And then I joined my brother in starting a new company on financial advisory called Girón Valuation Services. I decided to do the MBA because I wanted to move into investment banking, as I'm sure some of you are thinking of doing. And definitely the MBA is a good step for accomplishing that in your career. During the MBA, I did my internship at Credit Suisse in investment banking in London. And I got lucky enough to get the full-time offer to join them after the MBA. So I joined them for 2 years in the M&A team. And then I decided to come back to IESE to work for career services. So I've been here for the last year. I mean, a bit about me in the personal side. As here you can find some pictures of my previous teams actually. So the first picture is with my MBA colleagues here in Barcelona, as you can see in the beach. The second picture is my team at Credit Suisse. I really like skiing, so as you can see here, we are in a ski trip. And the third picture is my current team, well, part of the current team in Career Development Center, that if you join IESE, you will be lucky to meet all of them. Of course, I'm not alone in the finance team. So we have also Irene. Irene is Employee Engagement and Advising Manager. She has a master in law and she has worked in corporate law and has been here at IESE for almost 5 years. So she, I mean, nothing would be possible without the help of Irene and with the whole team behind the Career Development Center. So moving a bit on why finance. I mean, I think in person, of course, I come from finance. I have worked all my life in finance, so I have a special love for this sector. But I definitely think that finance is something that is impactful, is where you can really see an impact on any decision that you take. And finance is everywhere. As I said before, it's a very broad sector. So, I mean, you can go through private equity, investment banking, markets, fintech, wealth management, sales and trading. I mean, I put here some words of subsectors that you can go into. But, I mean, besides of all the opportunities that the finance sector entails, it's important to notice that at the end, I think finance is part of all our daily lives, no? Not only for companies, but for individuals. And I believe that every day you are involved in a financial decision of any type. So like, I mean, it's very from very normal activities and regular activities to very complex, maybe decision making problems. Financial institutions have been a great support nowadays, for example, in this crisis of COVID-19. And these institutions are actually supporting all of the sectors that have been affected more with the crisis, no? Like retail or travel. At the end, without the finance institution support, a lot of companies and sectors would go very, well, bankrupt and would have a very bad ending. So right now, I think financial institutions are also in a better shape than, for example, in the financial crisis of 2008. I think this is due because all of the regulations that were put in place after the crisis. So yeah, the crisis maybe also will hit the whole economy, but I guess that financial institutions are in a better shape to support this current crisis. A bit of numbers of how important finance is. 20% of total GDP in developing economies comes from the financial sector. So that's, I mean, 1/5 of the economy led by financial institutions. In terms of economic output, 7% of all UK's economic output comes from the financial institutions. I mean, I'm putting here UK because the UK is one of the biggest finance hubs. It's the biggest in Europe. In terms of, for example, in Luxembourg, it's 26%. This is the first country in the OECD of the financial institutions sector contribution to the economic output. Around 1.1 million financial services jobs in the UK last year. 20% of employees in the US comes from this sector as well. In terms of net income in the US, if you consider all the net income of all the companies, 73% comes from the financial institutions. I think this is obvious in the sense that financial institutions have a very large, high gross margin. And 24% of the market cap in the US also comes from financial institutions. No? So if you take all the public traded companies, 24% of this market cap comes from this sector. So as you can see, it's an important sector for sure. And we will talk a bit more about the type of roles and more specifics. So the diversity of the sector caters different backgrounds and skill sets. So you can, even if you want to be more involved in the quant-based research roles, or deal making, investment banking, or relationship building, private banking as well. Some of you might find interest in corporate finance programs across industries, that we'll talk a bit about that as well. And finally, fintech. I mean, it's a sector that has received a lot of investments, a lot of funding in the recent years, and is providing a lot of opportunities for MBA graduates. So this is also a very popular sector after the MBA. Finance is an interesting career choice for all of you who value, I mean, I chose here some of these, but there's a lot more. But if you are interested in data analysis, you will have to deal with a lot of data analysis, company analysis, industry analysis, execution. I think it's very important because you will not only do a strategy or will build a strategy, but actually you will execute this strategy. Either you go to a corporate or either you go to a bank. Relationship management, you will have to deal a lot with clients. Of course, the more high in the organization, the more relationships you will have with clients, but this is really important. Deal making capacity, as I said, you will be executing a lot of different decisions. Excel and modeling skills, I mean, at the end, you will have to like finance and to like Excel, because you will be working with a lot of numbers during the whole day. And impact, all of these decisions, all of this execution actually has an impact in the economy. And I think that's one of the most rewarding things when you are working in this sector, that you actually can see the contribution to the economy, not only to the specific company you are working for, but also to the whole industry. And well, I mean, high salaries for sure. This is one of the careers that are highest paid. The higher one climbs in any management role in any industry, the more crucial finance will play in the finance role will play in this position. So at the end, I mean, I think CFO have almost the same responsibility as a CEO, and almost all the decisions taken by a company has to do with finance. So that's, I think, is very, very relevant. Well, here, I mean, as I mentioned, it's a very broad sector, finance. So here we can have like a bit of a quick glance into the sector. If you see to the left, you have like kind of institutions, investment banks, commercial banks, and other. And at the top, you can see a bit of the roles or type of function that you could have, that it goes from lending and capital raising to advising, investing, or hedging. And inside this, we have allocated some of the roles or more specific functions that you could have. For example, I mean, investment banking, well, of course, goes inside the investment banks as institutions, but it's an advising role. While asset management, it's more into the investing side. And for example, equity capital markets or debt capital markets, it's true that at the end you will be working in the lending and capital raising, but also you're advising those companies in what is the best way to do this lending or this equity raising. In commercial banks, I mean, it's the same. For example, wealth management and private banking, even if it's a part of the commercial bank, you are advising and also investing. No, it's not only a matter of advising your clients what are the best investments they can do, but also doing it and following these investments throughout the cycle. And we also have, I mean, hedge funds, private equities, venture capital, pension funds, search funds, in that they are, I mean, they don't fall necessarily inside an investment bank or a commercial bank, but they have their own funds and companies and institutions that either are more focused on advising or more focused on investing. We also have corporate finance and fintech here across all different type of roles and functions, because if you work in the corporate finance, in the finance department in a company, you will be working with the banker or with the advisor in parallel to do this lending and capital raising, for example, or to do an M&A transaction, or whatever is the situation you are dealing with. And the fintech as well. I mean, fintech is a sector that we'll see later on that goes through all of these type of functions. So the important thing here is that you ask yourselves, where do you fit? Because, I mean, in this like map of the industry, it's important that you start locating your goals and what you enjoy doing and which type of industry and sector and function you want to pursue. I'll talk a bit about investment banking, then corporate finance and fintech, because I think these three are the most popular for MBAs, and a lot of people go to these type of roles post MBA. So investment banking, I'm sure almost all of you know what it is, but I think it's important to mention that you will be working with pitching, execution, and of course closing, thinking about a deal in general, either if it's an IPO or an M&A, for example. At the beginning, you will be maybe working more on pitching, or also, I don't know if you know, but for investment banking, after the MBA, so like the only way to enter the industry is through an internship, through a summer internship, and then you will be able to receive a full-time offer to go back after the MBA. And that's the only way to enter as an associate. No, if you, start as an analyst just after graduating university, that's another path. But if you really want to transition into this industry, the MBA is the perfect way to do so, and through the summer internship. Well, in pitching, you will do a lot of industry and company analysis, a lot of valuation. So you will have to understand all the methods of how to value a company. And the important part is that you will be developing strategies to add value to the shareholders. This could be through an M&A, an IPO, financing, restructuring. These are the main ones, but there are plenty of strategies that you will have to think of with the help of your team and in order to add value to the company and to the shareholders. In execution, you will actually be executing the deal. So you will have to deal with a lot of PowerPoint as well, with analyst presentations, maybe more in case of an IPO, and information memorandums more in the case of an M&A, but it's basically put everything together in a PowerPoint explaining the rationale behind a transaction and a lot of the company information. Then you will have roadshow, managing presentation. At the end, it's just going with investors or with potential buyers, depending on the case, and presenting all these presentations. And then doing the due diligence. This will be done, of course, with the help of consultancies or audit or Big Four firms to assess that everything is correct, in a legal perspective, in economic perspective, financial perspective, for taxes, etc. And then I think one of the crucial sides of this is negotiation. That's why negotiation skills are also very important for this job, because actually you will finally, when you choose the buyer, for example, in a sales side, you are selling a company, you choose the buyer, you will be negotiating the final price and the final terms of the deal. So of course, the more senior you are in this chain, the more involved you will be in the negotiation side. And well, at the end, you will close the deal, you will announce it, and you will have to work also in the more legal terms, on the shareholder terms, and all the finance terms. But you can see in the news every day, there's an M&A going on, or an IPO, or a bond issuance, and those things that are actually happening and are announced in the newspaper, this is like what makes this job really exciting. Going a bit through corporate finance, as I said, you can do corporate finance across all the industries: healthcare, retail, tech, and automotive. There are a lot of MBA programs in this type of companies, and some of them are rotational. Some of them you can rotate inside the finance department, or actually between finance and maybe more strategic areas. But corporate finance is huge. At the end, the goal is to become the CFO of the company. But behind the CFO, you have people involved in FP&A. So it's financial planning and analysis. So you will be more involved in budgeting, forecasting. It's a more commercial side, dealing with also all the internal departments, with marketing or sales to budget and forecast all these the whole year, or maybe a long-term 5-year term plan. You can do controllership, that it's more into the accounting side and reporting. So reporting on all the financial statements. Treasury, it's more about liquidity and cash flow. So you will also have to deal with, the most important thing for a company is to be cash positive. So dealing with the treasury is very, very important. You will have also M&A, or it can be called business development side, or department, or it can be called corporate development department. And at the end, you will be dealing with these partnerships or joint ventures, or in case you need to acquire another company or sell part of the business. Also investor relations. This is mainly for, I would say, public companies, or well, not only, but mainly, because you will be involved more in the earnings release every quarter, and all the communication with the shareholders. Well, the tax part, that sometimes is in a different box, but sometimes goes maybe more with controllership as well. And the corporate strategy, where you can do more like special projects, I don't know, let's retail, maybe buying another store in a specific market. That could be a specific project that you will have to do also a lot of projections and valuation of the specific project, for example. So as you can see, there's a lot of opportunities in corporate finance as well, and all of them very interesting and for MBAs. Fintech is booming. Here it's also a general map of all the type of fintechs. And so we can have, there are a lot of fintechs in the payment side, or maybe in the wealth management side, cryptocurrency, insurance, lending. There are so many fintechs appearing every day. Inside fintechs, you can have different type of roles. I would say that the most common for MBAs is business development and go-to-market. There are a lot of these fintechs that are expanding. They start in a specific country and they start expanding to other regions. So go-to-market is very popular for MBA, because you need to have sales skills, communication skills, and also understanding the product and managing the whole team. So those are typical skills of an MBA. You also have product management, or maybe more marketing and corporate branding, maybe more big data and business analytics, if you really like big data and more specific into the product per se. So there's or also if you are more into law, like if you have a degree in law and you like the regulation part, you can also have maybe roles in the compliance and legal side. Well, here, I just put some examples because I find very interesting that despite the crisis, there are a lot of fintech raising funds. This is a fintech in Colombia that just raised a couple of weeks ago $15 million, or Belgo that also had a recent funding. Well, this fintech called Corv that just launched the metal card, or Plate also acquired by Visa. So, these are things that are happening even though there's a crisis. So definitely this is an industry or a specific sector that you would like to assess if you're interested. Okay, so now I'll talk a bit about finance at IESE, how we prepare students to get into this sector, and what are the things that you will find if you join us here in the MBA. I think there are 3 pillars that we as Career Development Center help students with. Specifically, I mean, of course, this is a bit of general, but I will talk about specific in finance. So career management, we have a lot of one-on-one counseling with students to try to understand what they want specifically, and to know their skill set, how, what are the best options for them, looking at their experience, professional experience. And we organize a lot of career fairs where we bring a lot of companies to campus, finance tracks. So these are trips to London or Berlin, for example, for fintech, or London as well and Spain for venture capital and private equity. And we also do, of course, a lot of technical preparation because this is a technical sector. Well, we also do a lot of business development in the sense of bringing all these opportunities. And we have professional clubs that we will talk about this because it's a very important part of the preparation into finance. In general, I mean, career management and what you will be working with us in the finance specialization, it's more on, of course, on your CV. You know, it's very different a CV for finance than a CV for a role in marketing, maybe. You know, like CVs are usually more numerical, and you will have to really express your knowledge on the industry and your previous experience. You will have to work on a cover letter, all the technical side, more accounting and valuation. The mentoring, it's important that you will be assigned a mentor of second year or if you are first year to help you through this process. Will help you with interviews and with networking, which is also crucial for this sector. And I wanted also to talk about the professional clubs. So these 3 are, I mean, we have a lot of clubs at IESE, but these 3 clubs are under the finance umbrella. So I mentor these clubs, the finance club, the private equity and venture club, and the fintech club. Here you can find like now the current presidents of these clubs. And these clubs, I mean, they help a lot on the application support, on all the application process for these roles. On the technical side, they do a lot of events and speaker series with maybe alumni and experts on each sector, which can explain better what they do, and also giving you a bit of tips on how to better prepare. The tracks that I was talking about, a lot of competitions, conferences, student mentor programs, and mock interviews. Well, this is a recruitment overview. I mean, this is not inclusive, and there are a lot of companies recruiting at IESE, but I think just wanted to give you an understanding of what structured programs are and non-structured programs. So structured programs are programs that typically recruit students for a summer internship and then convert to full-time. So that's why, and these are structured programs for MBA specifically. So for example, in investment banking, you have Bank of America, Citi, Credit Suisse, Morgan Stanley that come to campus, recruit for the summer, and then for full-time. Also, you have asset management that have these type of programs, a lot of corporate finance, corporates that have this program. And also, I mean, development banks like CDC or IFC, or private banking like Credit Suisse or UBS or Itaú, for example. But of course, there are also non-structured programs or non-recurring companies that usually either they come to campus for a company presentation, or maybe they don't, but we have a good relationship with them. So they are hiring for ad hoc opportunities in case there are after the MBA. Where, I mean, I hear put like some countries, but of course it's not the only companies, but usually, for example, investment banking would be more for UK, fintech there is a lot of Germany, private equity also UK, US, Spain. Well, private banking, it's more in Switzerland, but we also have here some countries in Latam and in Asia that are the ones like focusing more on this type of roles. So as I mentioned before, we organize career fairs and treks. So here are some pictures from previous years on the fair, and here where we brought some of our students in to London to visit the different banks, or the fintech trek as well, visiting some companies. These are essential activities for networking and for students to get to know the company and to talk to employees and to talk to people, because one of the most important things is that you find fit, that you are a good fit for the company. And how do you know if you're a good fit for the company? Talking to people, networking with their employees, and understanding their values and the culture of each specific company. I wanted to mention also a bit on the competitions that we do here at IESE. Here we have the IPEC, that is the IESE Private Equity Competition. This is completely led and organized by our students. It's a full day event with a real LBO simulation. So you have this company, you will have to assess if you want to buy it, and then you need to present it to the investment committee that it's composed by judges from the industry. So, I mean, here you can see some previous editions judges, people from CBC or Carlyle, ANACAP, coming to judge and to hear to your investment presentation after you, of course, did all the analysis and the LBO modeling. So we have an internal competition where we choose a team from IESE, and then we also invite, this is hosted in IESE, and we invite other schools to compete. And then, I mean, there's a prize, a money prize after this. But I think for private equity, the preparation to land a job in private equity comes from this type of competitions. So as we also have some technical training on LBOs and modeling, but when you actually do an LBO simulation and when you actually compete in this type of events is where you get all the necessary skills and the practice needed to actually go through the interview processes as well. I mean, you know, the private equity interviews has a lot of LBO simulations and case studies. So this competition is a very good training for these interviews afterwards. And we have also, I mean, other competitions. For example, BCIC is a competition organized by the University of North Carolina, and we host the southern version because they're like divided by regions. This is, you will have 4 real ventures presenting their business model, then 8 teams that will act as venture capitalists, interacting with these entrepreneurs and companies. And then also we will have like some experts acting as judges to provide feedback in the negotiation process and how the students that are like the investors are interacting with the companies. So IIC is an impact investment competition. It's very similar, but this is, the BCIC is organized by University of North Carolina, hosted here. IIC is organized by IESE and hosted in IESE, also inviting a lot of other schools. Next year will be the 10th edition of this one. Other competitions that are not like hosted per se in IESE, but our students participate on are, for example, well, I mean, other private equity competitions in other business schools, the Sustainable Investing Kellogg Morgan Stanley competition, the CFA Research Challenge, and there are also other internal initiatives, for example, a FinTech Hackathon or a stock pitching competition that those are initiatives from students that will happen in the next year. And another important thing that we do at IESE is the conferences. So, I mean, here it's like, well, this year, flyer for promotion for the conference. Unfortunately, we canceled this 2 weeks before the event because of the coronavirus, but we were going to have very good speakers of Carlyle, HIG, MCH, etc., for private equity and venture capital as well. This, we already had a version in 2019, and we will have another next year, but it's a great opportunity for students to network and to start identifying also companies and funds where you want to work after the MBA. And how to prepare for recruiting. Well, I think I covered a lot already, like through the competitions, through the tracks, through the clubs. But what are financial institutions looking for? So these are like the type of skills that you need to have to succeed in this process. Data analysis and problem solving, as I think I mentioned before, communication and leadership. They really want people that are able to lead and to manage teams. Maybe at the beginning, when you join, you will be more into hands-on and more involved into the technical side. But as the MBA, how an MBA add value to the company, it starts showing maybe 2 years after the MBA, where you are able to lead the whole thing and you are able to propose strategies and to solve the actual problems. I mean, finance acumen and knowledge, it's important, of course, and that's the technical part that we cover. Attention to detail. It's an industry that every single mistake can be very drastic, so you will be very, you'll need to have, well, to be careful on this since the beginning. Relationship and client management, again, this is, you will be dealing with clients and interacting with clients since day one, even if you go to fintech or even if you go to investment banking or asset management. Every single subsector in finance has a lot of interaction with clients. Excellent modeling skills, team players, and highly motivated individuals. I mean, I think this is the most important part, actually, that you need to show during the recruitment process. You may not be an expert in modeling and expert in Excel. It's fine. You will get it at some point. But if you are not highly motivated, you will not get it afterwards. So banks need to see that you really want this job, that you're really motivated, and that you really fit into their team and into their culture. The finance team, I think, offers probably the toughest prep in town in IESE, with different sessions. Most of them are held in the first academic term, because as that's when the recruitment happens, and actually the deadlines are around mid-November and interviews are first week of January. So this is more for investment banking and asset management and specific corporate finance programs. And it's divided mainly in technical, motivation, networking, and fit. As I was saying before, motivation and fit are crucial to land a job in this sector. And the technical skills are important for sure, but I would say it goes after motivation and fit. And the networking is very important, and we here at IESE help a lot on this in these regards. Well, I mean, and this is just like in case you are considering to apply to do an MBA and you have time to start preparing before. Well, it's important to start drafting your CV, cover letters, build your story. You need to understand why you want this job, why you want investment banking, why you want private equity or asset management. If you are going to move to London, why me? Because these are questions that you need to convince the interviewer that this is something that you really want and that you will stay there also afterwards. No, it's not like just, okay, I'm gonna try this for 6 months and then leave. So start investigating about all the banks and firms to get also make a smart decision, right? You have a lot of opportunities, and it's not the same private equity than investment banking, and it's not the same wealth management than asset management. So it's important that you understand all your options and start mapping everything accordingly. Well, have always a backup plan, because it's a very competitive sector, mainly investment banking. It's normal. I think we have like 50 applications maybe each year, and no more than 15 jobs in, well, summer internships. So it's very competitive, and you need to have always a backup plan also that can be inside the finance sector. You will have a lot of on-campus training, as I mentioned before, but there's also important to start maybe some online training. I put here Financial Edge and Wall Street Prep that are very good for these purposes. And also it's good to find a study group. If you know a friend, if you know someone that wants to do the same, that wants to do investment banking, I mean, schedule some sessions with that person and discuss the different banks, discuss the different deals, discuss the different technical aspects. That will help a lot to increase your knowledge on the topic. And well, I think this is a bit of what I had. So I don't know if there are any questions, Camille.
Thanks a lot for that, Marcela. It was very comprehensive and with a lot of useful advice. So I'm sure everyone really learned a lot from that. We're a little bit short on time, so I'm just going to, I have a couple of questions that hopefully you can help with. So one of the questions we received was, someone asked, how much prior experience do I need if I want to move into a finance role? What if I didn't study finance, or I haven't really worked very deeply in a finance role before the MBA?
Yeah, it depends on each subsector, right? So for investment banking, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think there's a lot of career changers that go into investment bankers. So there are a lot of engineers that go into investment banking. We have a doctor that recently went to investment banking. So that really doesn't matter. It's more about your motivation and fit and the things that you can do once you join the MBA and start preparing for the interviews. For asset management, for example, it's more specific. So there, I mean, you need previous experience in finance or investing. For example, asset management value the CFA. So that's something that if you really are considering a career in asset management and you don't have experience, you can start with the CFA, and that will give you an advantage. And for example, for fintech, I mean, you don't need experience in finance. No, it's a bit more of business development role, and of course, knowing specifically the company that you are going to recruit with. So it really depends. For private banking or wealth management, not necessary a lot at all. We have an architect going now there. It's more about relationship skills and client management. So it's really depends on the sector.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. And Veer from India is asking, like consulting, do any of the finance companies have pre-MBA programs?
Pre-MBA, you mean? So, well, I mean, at the end, for example, investment banking, it's something, as I mentioned before, that you can change, you can enter investment banking after the MBA through a summer internship. So there's no way that if you don't have previous experience in investment banking, go into investment banking without an MBA. So it's needed in the MBA for investment banking. And I would say the same for the structured programs, the same for asset management and for private wealth management as well.
Okay. And what do you think is the advantage of coming to a school like IESE compared to other schools if I want to switch into finance?
Well, there are several advantages. I think one is investment banks, for example, in Europe, do not only recruit from 3 schools, and one of these is IESE. So they really don't go to other schools to recruit for investment banking. So we have a very, very good relationship with all the banks. So that's one thing. Second is the preparation that we give. I think we have a very structured program it's of course it's more heavy during the first academic term, but all the sessions and all the schedule is very well prepared for you to end up succeeding in the interview process. And third, you also have very good classes. We can combine, it's not only about careers, but also combined with academics. So we have very good finance accounting, corporate finance, operational finance, capital markets classes that build on your experience. So will help definitely to in the recruitment process. And I think also the case study is very important, because at the end, what we have in IESE with the case study, it allows you to think and to solve problems. And that's what also you will be doing in investment banking, for example, or in corporate finance, or any other sector in finance. You'll need to think and how to build a strategy and to solve a problem. So the case methodology will help you a lot on this thinking process.
Okay, fantastic. And I'm sorry, we only have time for one more question. I see we have quite a few coming in. So for those of you who have specific cases, you want to talk about your profile, again, please don't forget to reach out to anyone on the MBA admissions team. And I'm going to ask you one last question, Marcela, to wrap this up. As you know, of course, we have many applicants from all over the world, a lot coming from Asia. We have someone, Ting Ting from China, who's asking, if coming from China, for example, are we able to find jobs in Europe, or where do you find Asian students typically get placed?
Yeah, so for all of these MBA structured programs for investment banking, asset management, and the corporate finance, like MBA rotational programs that maybe I'm talking about healthcare companies or retail companies, they do recruit from everywhere, and they do sponsor visas. So for those, it's not difficult. It's just a matter of doing the fit, the motivation, the networking side well done in order to achieve that. For other non-structured programs and for ad hoc opportunities, it will depend on the company. Like the bigger the company, the easier is for them to sponsor visas. But some fintechs, for example, are very small, I'm not talking about Revolut or In26 that maybe they do sponsor visas, but for smaller ones, it would be more complicated in terms of working permit. But for sure, there are a lot of people from Asia or from Latin America moving into Europe.
Okay, fantastic. A big thank you again, Marcela, for your time and for your insights, and to all our listeners tuning in right now. Please don't forget to follow us on social media, on our blog, LinkedIn, and Facebook pages, where you can get more updates on student life and some of our virtual events coming up. Again, if you have any personal questions, the MBA admissions team is more than happy to assist. So please feel free to reach out to any of us, and you can find all our emails on our main website. Thanks again, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.